everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV Now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down those big headlines coming out of Washington to see how it impacts us right here in the coastal empire and low country. As always, we're being joined by WSAV Washington correspondent Kellie Meyer in Washington. We did decide to match today, so this was on purpose. Kellie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, although I know you're more cherry than I am for
Yeah.
Temple, but we got the red family going
I'm
on.
repping our alumni, our alma mater a lot better, I think, honestly, because it's like, yeah, it's like a burgundy.
Cherry,
I'm
yes.
I'm not gonna lie, the COVID 20 pounds like is not helping this fit well, but whatever, it still looks good. So we have a very, very special show today, not only because of all these big headlines, but because it is my last show on All Politics Are Local. We've been doing this a year and a half now, Kellie, since I want to say like a month or two after I started, after you started. We will get to that and we will talk and reflect a little bit at the end, but we have some big headlines we want to discuss. One of the biggest ones being the new effort to try and pass more COVID relief. Obviously, there's that push to try to get it done by the middle of March, because that's when a lot of those different protections will expire. There's a big debate right now over some of those, minimalistic areas that they're putting into the bill. One of those things that Democrats are trying to put in there at the last ditch effort is a minimum wage increase. Now, there's a debate about that, whether or not they can do that. Kellie, can you talk to us a little bit about that debate and also talk to us about when we may learn more about this bill? Because like we've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, everyone is still hurting. We're still getting through this. We're still trying to get through that dark winter, like the president was describing, President Biden was describing, and we're hopefully coming out of it. But Kellie, what's the latest on this relief?
Yeah, well, we are hoping to see some movement on this in this coming week. The House expecting to vote on this. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said by the end of the week, maybe Friday or the weekend. So they are moving this bill through, and then that would move on to the Senate, of course, and trying to sync up the bills and get this through. So they definitely are moving it as quickly as you can in Congress, really. We aren't expecting anything to pass, before the end of February, but like you mentioned, we are thinking probably by mid-March to see a vote on this, but they are putting the wheels in motion on this budget reconciliation process. So basically moving it forward with the vehicle that would allow them to pass it with a simple majority in the Senate, filibuster proof, and, essentially could pass it without Republican support. It's been a big push from the White House to make sure that this bill is bipartisan. And part of making it bipartisan, you kind of run into this issue or proposal of the minimum wage increase to $15 an hour. And that's been a big discussion, as you mentioned, whether it should be put into this bill, whether it should be separate from COVID relief. And that's a debate that Republicans and Democrats are having in the House right now. But Speaker Pelosi did say that they expect to vote at the end of this week. Like I said, she talked a little bit about COVID relief and the vaccinations and whether teachers need to be vaccinated, all of those things, getting kids back into school during her weekly press conference last Thursday. We can play a little bit from that here now.
That now has gone to the Budget Committee, which will consolidate all of that, make sure that it is, again, in keeping with what reconciliation allows, and that will then go to the Rules Committee for us to vote on sometime at the end of next week, is my hope. However, at the same time, there's communication with the Senate as to what the Byrd rule will allow in the bills as we go forward. So that's kind of where we are on that.
Again, you just heard from Speaker Pelosi last week during her weekly press conference about all the COVID relief discussions. And I think that was a really good point you brought up, Kellie, talking about seeing where they can get this wiggle room. And because Democrats don't really have that huge bipartisan support on the price tag really of this relief bill, and having to rely on the budget reconciliation, that limits them to some of those things that they can include. And I think it's really interesting to see that we have to literally wait for the parliamentarian to come back and say whether they can do this or not. And also, too, you're seeing those key Democratic, moderate Democratic senators like Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kristen Sinema of Arizona who are saying like they're not really a fan of a $15 minimum wage. They're asking more for $11. So if Democrats try to include this and do successfully are able to include this $15 minimum wage in the relief bill, the bill still may not pass in the Senate because of that area that they're fighting to put in the $15 minimum wage, because two Democrats want something lower. So I think that's an interesting aspect that we have to monitor over the next few days. And also, too, the majority of the Senate is still on recess right now, too, right, Kellie?
They actually are just getting back. They were last week, but now they are returning this week. So the House and the Senate are in session, and I believe will be in session through mid-March, and then you'll see them kind of breaking away, going for Easter recess, that kind of thing. So that's why there is also this push while they're here, while both chambers are here, to get this through. So I mean, the Senate's already back early for a Monday because they are in these confirmation hearings happening now with the confirmation of the potential next Attorney General, Merrick Garland. So we have seen the Senate return very early. The House is working on COVID relief on the House side. So another busy week here in Washington.
Very, very busy week on the Hill for everybody up there, and you included. And thank you for mentioning Merrick Garland. We really want to briefly just mention that right now. We're filming on Monday morning, and right now his confirmation hearing in the Judiciary Committee is going on right now. Again, for those of you unfamiliar with Merrick Garland, he is on the D.C. Court of Appeals. He's been there since the late 90s, and he also rose to fame because he was nominated by President Obama to fill a seat on the Supreme Court, and he was denied a hearing in the Senate, however. So that is where he's at, but he's finally got his confirmation hearing to be Attorney General right now. And so right now, senators are asking him questions and obviously going through the confirmation process. He is expected to pass, though, I believe.
I believe so. And it is, like you mentioned, it's interesting. This is someone who the Senate knows very well because he had met many of them through his vetting for the Supreme Court Justice position. So he knows many of these senators. He's been through this. He's been through the halls. So he has that experience already. They know him very well. So now he's going through, currently just introducing himself, going through his opening statements, and he'll go through questioning here. So we'll be paying close attention to, we have Lindsey Graham from South Carolina on here. John Ossoff is a member on here as well. And I have Tom Tillis we're looking at from North Carolina. So a few of our members from the Southeast I'll be watching for today. So stay tuned. I'll have that in my story for tonight.
I was just about to say, you can't forget Ossoff's on there now too. We got a Georgia senator in the Senate Judiciary Committee as well. And one last other thing. Speaking of John Ossoff, his former challenger in 2020 for the Senate, former Senator David Perdue, he is announcing that he's running again for Senate in 2022. So for those of you who are saying, I have to go back to the polls again in 2022 to vote for Senate, yes. So what is going on is Raphael Warnock's seat, Senator Raphael Warnock, his seat is to fill the former term of Johnny Isakson, and his term would have ended in 2022. So Senator Raphael Warnock is holding on to that seat until the end of his term because he won the election, and he's up for re-election again in 2022, and that'll be for a 6-year term. Currently, right now, John Ossoff is on his 6-year term right now. So he won't be up for election again until 2026. Yes, that's math. I cannot do math in the morning. And so Senator Perdue announced he's running again, and he's going to be running against Raphael Warnock. Kellie, what has been some of the reaction that you've been seeing on the Hill? Senator Perdue he served one term in the Senate before he lost re-election, and he's still trying to stay in public spotlight and get back on the Hill. Kellie, what is your reaction? You've also interviewed him multiple times on the Hill.
Yeah, I mean, it was I guess a bit surprising. I mean, it was very quick. I mean, it was just a little over a month ago that he lost his race, and now he's saying he wants to run again. It's also interesting timing, with the former President Trump, being acquitted in the Senate, and obviously his footprint just as powerful as ever. And if Perdue continues to run on the MAGA agenda as well, and see what kind of support he picks up, it's interesting because the Republican Party is also having this moment of what's our identity, where do we go from here? So I do want to catch up with Warnock and Ossoff. They were gone last week back in the state. So if they come up to the Hill this week, that's definitely something I would like to ask them and what they think about it, and him running again, and what kind of competition it is presents to Warnock in 2022. It's going to be a fascinating race. But it is interesting to see him, want to come up here again. We worked with him as well in the past couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And also, too, I think worth mentioning is 2022 is going to be a crazy midterm election year, because not only do we have Congress, federal elections up for grabs, but here locally in Georgia, we have governor's race. All of the top leadership in the state is up for grabs. Governor, lieutenant governor, all of those different positions are up for grabs. Obviously, there's a lot of talk here that Stacey Abrams is going to try to launch another effort to try and run for governor. She's been
Something like that, right?
yeah, she's been working tirelessly for the last couple of years to register voters. So there's a lot of talk about that. One thing you and I talked about this before we even started the show today, Kellie, was talking about how Reverend Raphael Warnock was able to mobilize African American voters in massive droves in not just the general election, but in the runoff. We had historic numbers for runoff, and a lot of those people who came out were young voters and African American voters here in the Peach State. So I think it's going to be really interesting in 2022 seeing how that dynamic is going to impact this election, and also to changing demographics here in Georgia. We're, becoming a majority minority state every day, and we're inching closer to that. So once we get to 2022, I think it's going to be a really interesting election cycle. See how that all goes down. But before, oh wait,
which brings us to
you said, which brings us to the sad part.
yeah, you're gonna pick up with it. Oh,
I want to just reflect on the last year and a half. For those of you who don't know, first thing I want to say is Kellie and I have never met each other in person, ever. That's the funniest thing. We have not met each other in person in the year and a half we've worked together. We've literally only done FaceTime calls and phone calls and these shows that we've been doing the last year and a half. This show started as the brainchild of my boss at WSAV, Kevin Brennan, my news director. When we started this digital team, we were trying to come up with shows and content. I'm a political junkie. So he had the idea to start this show, and I was just lucky enough to be able to take the reins and kind of push forward with it. And I was lucky enough to be paired with this fantastic person who I've been able to work with the last year and a half through elections and pandemics and just a number of unexpected stories and headlines. We've been able to work together, not just during our shows, but during the week. I'll text back and forth with her being like, hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see that? And you'll text me being like, did you ever talk to this person? Did you ever hear back from this person? And so first of all, I just want to say thank you everyone for watching with us the last year and a half. The show is not going anywhere. We're just going to be, shifting around as we find a replacement. I will be leaving WSAV by the end of the week, onto greener pastures, a little bit closer to home, which I'll announce later in the week. But I just want to take the time to thank our viewers for watching this show and staying informed, because I hate to sound so corny, but all politics really are local. Yes, your national races gain so much attention, but these state races here matter the most. Your mayor, your governor, your county commissioner, all of these races matter so much more. So for those of you who paid attention to us the last year, thank you so much for keeping yourself and others around you informed. And also, I have to thank, and I save this best for last, Kellie, I have to thank you, because not only have you been one of the best colleagues I could have ever worked with, but surprisingly a Temple alum, which is just crazy and just twist of fate, and I gained not only a fantastic colleague, but an even better friend over the last year and a half through all of these challenges. And I think we were texting about this over the weekend, was that during the pandemic, once the pandemic started and there was so much uncertainty and so much anxiety, the one thing that both of us had was this show. And we knew every week, every Monday or whatever day of the week, we were going to sit down, each other, chat, decompress, and give you guys the news and give you the things that matter most going on right now. So Kellie, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, finding the time to do this, making all of this happen for not just myself, but everybody back here in Georgia watching. I just can't thank you enough, Kellie.
I'm like just speechless. I think you said everything all so perfectly. How important this show is, how important politics, all politics are local, the message, just being together through this pandemic. And truly, like you said off the top, we did not know each other when this started, and we never met, and we still haven't met actually in person ever. But you have been one of the rocks throughout this pandemic for me, and having this to look forward to, and hopefully we're able to supply people with what's happening on the Hill back home and just keep everybody in the loop. But I am just so grateful for you, and I'm so glad we've gotten so close, and you have truly been there for me on this show and beyond this show, checking in on me. And we checked in on each other throughout this pandemic and having someone to talk to. So it was more than just a show, and you will be truly missed. So I wish you all the best, and I know we'll connect again.
Yes, I mean, I'm trying not to cry because I do not want to cry off any of the makeup I have on right now. No, Kellie, you said it all best too. Thank you for watching. I mean, the good thing is we'll actually be able to meet once I'm out of Savannah and where I'm going next, which is still undisclosed. I'll be a little bit closer to you, so that's a positive. But I just can't thank you enough for also being here for me on the show, beyond the show. I couldn't have asked for anything better. So Kellie, thank you so much for the last year and a half and for whatever we have in our future together. And thank you so much for helping us here in the Coastal Empire stay informed.
Oh, thank you for having me.
As always, you can see previous episodes of this show on our website. Just go to wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal, and you can see more of Kellie's relentless reporting on the Hill and the rest of our Washington team on our website. Just go to wsav.com/Washington. Thank you so much again for watching. I'm John Dowding. I won't be here next week, but we will see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.